All right, in this video, we're gonna go over the beginning steps to creating a coil pop. We're gonna start first with a slab base. And once you roll out your slab base, you wanna make sure that you go in with a rib tool, smooth it out, get any of those canvas marks out, and make it nice and even. This is gonna be your base, so you wanna start it off really nicely, and it will help you continue to maintain that throughout the rest of your pop. In class, we have cookie cutters if one of those circle sizes matches what you're looking to do. However, you could always take anything that's circular and trace it. So I have this glaze bottle here. I am going to just rest it down, and you can use anything you find around the classroom. And I'm just gonna go in ever so lightly with a pin tool, and I'm gonna trace the glaze bottle. Now, a cookie cutter will give you a little bit more of a sharper finish, but this will work if you wanna work with a smaller or a larger base. And then I'm gonna go in and I'm going to cut it directly up and down and try to follow it as even as you can. Now, I'm working with porcelain in this demo. I'm gonna continue my next demos with other clay now that we have clay in class. So I think it'll be able to smooth a little bit better, but I wanted to go over the first few steps and get you guys started. So I have my base, my circle, smooth out all the edges, make sure that it's really nice and well constructed. Following this, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna create some coils. This is a coil. This is gonna be the building block of your entire vase. I found that, early on coils can be challenging, but you wanna make sure that when creating your coils, you do really take your time to get them nice and even. Because if you start out even with your coils, it's just gonna continue and make your process easier and make your vase more even. So if you start off really nice, you'll continue nice. I am going to break off a piece of clay, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to compress it between my hands. And it may not look like I'm pressing it really hard, but I'm just kind of squeezing it into shape, making sure I get any of the air pockets out so that it's almost cylindrical. You're gonna want plenty of space when doing this. So you're not gonna wanna roll your coil out just on your board. You're not gonna wanna just have like a little space. You're just gonna get a flat coil. So you want to use all the way from your fingertips to the end of the palm of your hands. And I'm working rather flat with them so that I'm not compressing it down too much. I'm gonna start in the middle and then I'm gonna work my way out. So I'm taking that clay and then I'm pulling it out. And you're just gonna repeat this until you get a coil form. So I'm gonna roll this a little bit uneven. So if I have, I'm rolling my coil, it gets a little uneven. That's okay. We can go in and just start to apply a little bit more pressure to the areas surrounding it and even that up. And there are a few ways too, once we attach the coils on, that we could add extra clay and adjust, but you want to try to get a nice even coil. Sometimes you'll find that you'll get larger pieces like this on the end when rolling them out. If it's in your way and it's creating your coil to not be even, just break it off and then we'll continue. So your first coil is not going to be all that big as far as, the circumference goes because we're starting with our base. Now, everyone is going to start this out the same way, whether you're making a really bulbous shape, something narrow. I want you guys to really focus on building a very strong structure to then coil upon. So for the first coil, I'm gonna take it and I am going to rest it directly on top of my base. And rather than just wrapping the coils up and up and up, we wanna make sure that we're cutting them as we go. That way, we're gonna get a much more even piece. So I cut that. I'm then gonna line this part up with it, and I'm gonna cut down approximately where they meet. I then wanna go in and attach those together. If you notice it's a little too large, you can go in and just take a little bit of extra out, and you wanna make sure that it's pretty in line with the slab base that you created. I'm gonna go in and just smooth that clay together. If you find that you have a little dip here, because we did attach 2 pieces of clay, you may be missing some in that area, just go in, take a little bit of extra clay and swipe it on. So we could always fill in any unevenness just with a little bit of fresh clay. The first coil is going to be very different from the rest of them. What we want to do is we want to start to attach the base first. So rather than smoothing the coil, I am going to smooth the base into the coil to create a stronger seal. It's also going to allow the clay to go over the base. So if you were to put a liquid in it, it's just going to give it a much stronger seal. Just trust me on this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my thumb, and I want to, as I go around, make sure that I'm placing it in the same section. And I'm going to do this a little bit backwards than I normally would so I could show you, but I'm just going to be pressing the clay down and smoothing it into my first coil. I usually do a few swipes and then I start to go over and smooth the clay in. But you could see right now, I went all across, same amount of pressure, and also the same amount, from the edge. So I'm going to continue that by looking down and making sure that I'm smoothing in approximately the same amount. Take your time on this part. If you get a nice even start, that's just gonna make it easier as you continue. So I always say take your time early on, make sure you have what you want. If for some reason your base doesn't work out or it's a little messy and we can't quite go in and fix it, it's always okay to start over early on so that you have the piece that you want to have. So I'm gonna go in all the way, I'm just smoothing, and then I'm kind of dragging my thumb across to smooth the rest. And it's gonna start to form together. So my first coil is rather thick. Once we attach the other ones, I'm gonna start to deal with that area, and I'll show you guys how we're gonna break up the coils a little bit. After you get your coil on there, what we want to do is we want to take about half of it and we want to smooth it in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my hand right against here so that as I smooth in with my thumb, it's not going to cave out. You want to make sure that you're supporting it every time you're smoothing it in. So I'm going to go through with my thumb, and I'm just going to swipe down 3 swipes. And then I'm going to drag it over. So take about half of the coil. It'll look like that. And then drag it over. I'm going to continue with the rest of it, but you could already see how much of the coil went down in scale because we are blending it together. Now the coils we're working with are going to be a little bit thicker than, maybe another coil vase you might build in the future, because I want to be able to carve textures into these and not affect the structural integrity, not get any holes in the vase, because we are going to be subtracting quite a bit from them. So I'm just smoothing down with my thumb and going across. You want to make sure that this step is done really nice. Try to get it as even as you can, as smooth as you can, because this is going to be the building block for the rest of your project. So this is step one, no matter what you're building. So your base could be a different size, but we want to get a coil directly on top. So what comes into play next is the templates that we created. We're going to use these to then attach our next coil, and you all have different designs. This is going to help you know where to line up your coils and how to have a nice transition to form the piece that you want. So I'm going to take a coil I had already made, and I'm going to line my template up. You can also, if you feel like you can push this out a little bit, you can also push this out slightly if you want it to meet up with your template a little easier. I'm going to take my coil and I'm going to first just line it up in the one area. And it's going to hit about there. Now, from here, I'm going to look down at the top and I'm going to attach the coil so that it's even along the inside. Same thing, you want to attach only one coil at a time. We're going in, we're cutting that. Go in and do a very, very slight overlap and then cut the coil next to it. Like I said, the clay in class will be easier. The porcelain is definitely not an ideal for a coil pop, but it's what I have working with at home. So I'm going to take that, take a look at it, and you could see that it's slowly going to be building out. I do want to take a little bit extra off of this, but once you have your coil, you want to ever so slightly compress it into the coil beneath it. This is going to help the structural integrity of it. I know I said that a few times, but it's really going to create a little bit more of a suction to then smooth the coils in a little bit easier. Because the clay we're working with in class is so fresh, we don't need to slip and score. We can just go in and blend. I find that often when you're using really fresh clay for coil pots, and especially smoothed coil pots, once you get slip on there, it gets really kind of slimy and messy. I'm going to go in and I'm going to take a look at where this lines up. And then I'm going to go along to the other side. And I want to make sure you kind of check like all four sides. Make sure that it's lining up nice with your template. If it's a little off, we could go in at the end of this coil and just ever so slightly push it out. So your second coil is a little different. Rather than smoothing your bottom piece up, like when we smooth the base, we're going to be smoothing it down. I like to think of this coil as breaking it up into thirds. I think it makes it a little easier, especially when you're first starting out, to figure out how much clay you want to smooth inside and outside. So I'm breaking it up approximately into thirds. I'm going to smooth this area inside, that area outside, and then you'll have a fairly thinner area for your next coil to attach. So essentially we're filling in using the extra clay. Once again, you want to support it really, really, really well, all right? If you just go in and start pushing, it's just going to get all wonky. So make sure you're holding that, and I'm just going in with my thumb, and I want to make sure that I'm applying a good amount of pressure, and I'm smoothing that coil in. You can draw little marks all the way around if you want, or if you feel comfortable enough, once you get that first mark in there, following along, we're just going to go all the way around and we're going to smooth it in. Take your time when you do this. It's your very, very first coil. If you're rolling them out and you get a coil that's a little messy, scrap it, bunch it up, and start a new coil. It's always, always okay to restart when you're beginning something, especially something that you're just learning. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to smooth that out. And I'm gonna go in with my hand. I'm gonna smooth this up much better. You want it to be completely smooth, but I'm looking and I'm already at 15 minutes, so I wanna try to get to the end of this. We're then gonna take the next coil and we're gonna smooth it down. So same thing, using your thumb, go in and we're gonna take that other third and we're gonna push down. So you could see I'm starting to blend that in. Make sure that you're holding it from the inside, and we're just gonna push down and then smooth over. As we continue these projects, we're gonna be using rib tools a lot, and I'll show you how we're gonna be using them, especially as I continue through the next few steps. Once I go through attaching a few more coils, I think you guys will get the hang of it and how coils work, how to stack them, all that good stuff. So I'm just really using my thumb and then smoothing that across. Now there are a wide variety of rib tools. There's wooden rib tools, metal rib tools, silicone rib tools, and they're all used to smooth clay. So it's really preference when working. But I'm gonna go in now and I'm gonna start to use a rib tool to smooth this. Now I'm gonna use this little red one because I have my vase at a rather short level. I do tend to prefer using these though when working with hand building. So I'll probably go in and do that in the next video. I'm just gonna go in, take this, kind of bend it so that it bends with the pot, and making sure that you're supporting it, just go in and scrape. This is going to take off any extra clay. It might unsmooth your pot a little bit, but that is okay. This is just gonna help you get it a lot more even, and we could always go back in and smooth that a little bit more. What this does is it takes off any extra clay that's sticking out a little further than the other clay. And you could start to get a really nice smooth finish. So usually first day working on coil pots, you'll get to about here. We will go in and continue to smooth as we go. Take your template. I'm not going to attach another coil right now, but I'm gonna line it up here. And I do notice that I have a little bit of a difference. I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna push this out a little bit so that it lines up. And then I'm gonna take my thumb and push this out a little bit. So you can also, if your coils you feel like are not stacked correctly once it's smoothed, you can use your thumb and work that clay outward, really supporting it still, but so that it's matching up with your template. That's really, really, really important, especially if you have a shape that you're set on. And that's why we're using these to help guide you. So that I think fits much better than it did before. And as I stack my next coil, it's just gonna line up and fill in this little extra over here. One last thing, just to show you how coils work, all right? So I have my base here. As you stack your coils outward, and it's something that you want to do pretty slowly. If you start to stack your coils and they go out really, really quick, you're gonna run into that your pot is flopping over. You also want to make sure that, say you make 3 coils and your pot is really like wiggly. You don't want to continue to attach more on. You're going to want it to firm up a little bit before you continue to build your structure. This is your base. So you wouldn't, go ahead and lay, start a foundation of a house and then just keep continuing building on it right before, the foundation was not finished yet. So you want to make sure that as you're going, you let it firm up ever so slightly so that it could hold the clay. So going outwards is just stacking up your coils And I'm just using these to kind of show you guys as a example of scale. Obviously, they're not full coils, but as you go out, your vase would go out. Same thing as we're going to work in. As you rest your coils in ever so slightly, your pot's gonna start to go in. We'll follow the template. I'll go over a lot more of this in the next demo video. But for today, we are going to make a slab base. We're going to attach an even coil all around it. And then we're going to utilize our template to create our first coil to go ahead and match that. Make sure that you have some rib tools at your table. Make sure you have plenty of space to roll out your coils. And we'll go from there.